All right, welcome back. Our sauce has simmered for about 25 minutes and it got nice and thick, as I think you can tell from before. It is still warm, and when you're building the lasagna, I think it bakes better. It starts baking better in the oven if you already have a warm sauce. Also, while the sauce was simmering, I do a little bit of an unconventional lasagna noodle cook, or soak, I should say, method. And this is not mine. I got this from my absolute favorite, Ina Garten. So thanks, girl. But anyway, what I do is I get another large pot and I let my tap water run to whenever it is the absolute hottest. It's like burning my fingers, it's steaming. And I fill this pot all the way to the top with that temperature of just like the hottest tap water possible. I put, this seems like a lot, but this is so much water and it won't really make your pasta salty, but a quarter cup of kosher salt goes in here. Stir it around to dissolve. Then I take 12 noodles because my specific pan only needs 12. You might want to measure yours out before to see how many you need. This is only a 2-layer noodle situation. But anyway, I take 12 noodles, put them in to this hot water, fan them out a little bit so they're not touching each other as much as possible because they do tend to stick together. Anyway, set a timer for 20 minutes. After a 20-minute soak, I set myself up here with a baking pan just to land these in. I did put a piece of parchment down so these don't stick to anything because they're a little starchy when they come out. But anyway, take them out, put them on the parchment in one layer. The 6 fits across here perfectly for me. Then I take a paper towel and dab off any excess moisture. However, if you're not going to use them right away, keep that damn paper towel on them so they don't start to like curl up and dry up on you. You don't want that. Okay. I started my first layer because I didn't want to bore all of us with just me putting this whole thing together. So I'm going to show you how to do the second layer. Again, it's only a 2-layer lasagna, but I started my layers. Also, got ready with my station. I have my sauce, I have my noodles. In here, this is our ricotta filling. This is 20 ounces, which is about 2/3 full of those large tubs. They're 32 ounces, so 2/3 of that, of whole milk ricotta at room temperature. Really, really important. 1 beaten egg, 1 cup of ground or grated Parmesan cheese, a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and then again, unconventionally, just because if you're making something as like cheesy and rich and meaty as this, I like to put some healthy component in there. I have one of those 10-ounce boxes of frozen chopped spinach that I thawed out, and I squeezed out all the water possible that I could, let it get really dry, and then flaked it up into here, and then I just folded that all, mixed it all together till it's well combined. I also took one of those large logs of fresh mozzarella, and I dried it off with paper towels because they tend to be in water or a little bit wet, and I really thinly sliced it. And I came up, at the end of the day, this is only half of it, but I came up with 32 thin slices of this, which I think is a perfect number. If you can get more out of yours, go for it. More cheese is always better. But anyway, I also have the rest of my container of Parmesan cheese for the topping. So what I've done already is take about 2.5 ladles of your sauce and put it into the bottom of the pan. Swirl it around so you get an even layer. We do this because next the noodle layer is going to go in and we want them to continue cooking in the sauce. And the reason why I do the soak method is because if you boil them and they get really, really soft, they kind of disappear and lose their structural integrity in this. So by only soaking it, we're kind of par cooking them, and then they will cook the rest of the way in the liquid from the tomato sauce. So you'll get a bit stronger, toothsome of a noodle in this, which I tend to like more than a flimsy one. Anyway, then we shingled our noodles. For this pan, this is a lasagna pan. It is 10 by 15, but you could also make this in a 9 by 13. You probably will have to cut your noodles a little bit to fit, but I did 4 noodles touching, snug together, going this way, and then 2 going this way. Now I did have to snip off just maybe a 1/2 inch of the one side of the ones that are going this way to make them fit, but that's just my pan. Feel free to cut whatever you need. And then if you have to cut something in half, you can just use it again. Don't throw that away. Anyway, next, we evenly spaced out 16 of these slices of the mozzarella, followed by 1/2 of our ricotta mixture, and I sort of dolloped that all over and then spread it into an even layer. Now we're ready to move on. Next, we repeat with sauce. So we will take and sort of as evenly as humanly possible, again, about maybe 3 of these ladlefuls of sauce. And then I just take this and make sure that it touches everything. Don't neglect the corners in any of this. They need some love as well. Speaking of, we might need just a little bit more for that corner right there. And just a little bit more for that corner there. All right. I think we're good on that front. Now, back to the noodles. I kept my wet paper towel over here. And P.S. I did layer, because I had 12 noodles on top of here. I kept the damp paper towel. I put another piece of parchment, and then the noodles, and then another paper towel. But I use that. So next, oops, she's sticking. Okay, now I'm gonna go the other way. So we went this way and that way. So now I'm gonna go this way and that way. And I think that that just aids in, again, a structurally sound build of your lasagna. So when you cut into it, hopefully will retain its shape. Now, with these final 2, I am going to snip off just a little bit of the top so that then they should fit perfectly, and they do, into the pan. Okay, wonderful. Next, cheese. Well, mozzarella cheese. I like to spread this out as evenly as possible so that when you cut into this, each bite has that like wonderful melty cheese pull mozzarella goodness that I really enjoy out of a lasagna. If you don't feel like cutting up fresh mozzarella into slices like this, your other option, and it would be just as good, I suppose, would be shredded. So if you want a little bit of a shortcut, go for it on that front. Okay, next, the rest of the ricotta mixture. Again, I kind of take it in dollops so that it makes it a little bit easier, hopefully, to spread out. And remember, I said before, this is at absolute room temperature. This has been sitting out for long enough where it is very easily manipulated and spreadable. If it is cold, it will not do what you want it to do. You'll get mad at it. It will disrupt everything, and you will probably get red sauce into your white layer of this, and you'll get mad at it, which, let's not get mad. Okay, bear with me as I try to retain the spacing here of the mozzarella that I already have in place. And then I have this nice offset spatula, a regular, I mean, I could totally have done it with this. I just find that this gets a little bit easier into the corners than just a regular spatula does.
Where'd you get that offset spatula?
Well, where did I get this? Bed Bath & Beyond? No, you got it for me for Christmas.
Oh my god, there you
I
go.
don't know where you got it, but
That's what I was getting
from
at.
Santa Kent. Also, a very good purchase and gift for me because I use it a lot to ice cakes and do all sorts of things. Really handy dandy little tool. Okay, so this is super fun to watch, I'm sure. We're almost there at this point. Again, try to like get the love into as much as the ends and the corners as you can possibly do, so that people who get an end piece are not left out in the cold without any of this delicious spinach and ricotta mixture. Okay, I think we're getting there. All right, last, more sauce. I think we saw it takes about 3 ladlefuls of this ladle at least to cover this. And then maybe a little bit more. Now, I'm gonna use this offset spatula. As much as I want to eat that, it has raw egg in it, so don't. But now we can use this, since there's no worry of messing anything else up. Thank you for moving that, babe. And you want this completely covered, so I think it needs a little bit more. You want to try to not see any, I keep doing that, sorry, any of the white layer. And you want this to cover as much in the corners as possible so you don't have any noodle corners that are like flipped up and not under the sauce, because those will burn and also they will not cook the way that you're gonna want them to cook. So, great. Last thing we're going to do is just take about a half cup, but I tend to not measure this because it's gonna take as much cheese as it takes to nicely cover the top of this entire thing. Some people top theirs with the mozzarella layer. I like it to be sort of ooey gooey in the middle of it. Again, don't neglect the corners and the sides. You'll probably use about a half to 3/4 of a cup of this. All right. That is the lasagna. It is built. Now we have to bake it. I have my oven that has been preheating to 400 degrees. And we are going to go into the oven, rack toward the top, uncovered, and everything is still warm. The sauce is warm, so hopefully that will start right away cooking and getting going. So I'm gonna leave this in here for about 30 minutes. And every time I cook a lasagna, it kind of is different depending on the temperature of the ingredients that are already in there. So what you want is everything to be super bubbly, and you want that top layer of Parmesan cheese to be nice and browned. If everything's bubbly, even in the center, because what happens is sometimes the corners of the lasagna are molten and then the center is still completely raw, make sure it is bubbling throughout. If your cheese is not browned as much as you would like, you can bump it up to broil and just for like 30 seconds to a minute, crisp up that top layer and pull it out. You are going to want to dig into this right away. Do not resist the urge. It is egg, molten lava, but B, it needs to sit for 20 minutes just so everything tightens back up again. The sauce isn't so watery, because when you cut into it, you don't want the entire thing to just like collapse in on itself. You want a nice restaurant, picture perfect slice of lasagna that stays on your plate in the square that you cut it in. So tune back in for the finished product. I will post some pictures. Thank you, everybody.